Hello guys, it's me, Greed here. Today I want to talk about this post on Twitter accusing someone of cheating in the Battlefield 6 beta. I don't know who Riley is. I'm aware that they're part of Team EXE. That's all I know about them. I know who Tectone is. He's a streamer. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about any of the internet beef going on or the shit talking that happened between them because I don't care. I just care about if this guy's cheating or not. So, I'm unaware of Riley. I'm unbiased. I'm not going to say he's cheating to agree with Tectone. I'm not going to say he's not cheating just to disagree with Tectone. We're going to look at the clips. We're going to analyze them. We're going to say why he is or he isn't cheating. And that's all we're going to do. So let's look at the first one.
Oh my god, you did follow me in Delta Force era.
So again, this is, people might say this is like crazy. This is relatively normal. So he kills the first target. He sees the second target jumping down. He flicks. His aim is off. He lands on him and then starts tracking down. You see his tracking is like twitching because it's not smooth enough. That's just a lack of practice. Obviously, I'm not critiquing this guy. I'm just saying it how it is. But if it were an aimbot, it would be locked onto a position and it would be perfectly smooth. Riley's aim is not perfectly smooth here. Therefore, now obviously there are humanizer settings within aimbots that make it so that stuff like this is possible. So that honestly, that clip's totally fine. I got no issue with that. None of that's impossible or even really all that difficult. Right, I think that this one should just definitively prove that this clip is not cheating at all, because this is, again, not to insult Riley. That's not what I'm doing. I'm sure Riley's very capable, but let's analyze the actual target switching for a second. So he gets onto his target. He initially overflicks, which is fine. Gets back onto his target. Flicks to where he thinks someone is, because it's outside of his field of view. So missing here is totally fine. Then he corrects onto the guy, kills him, spots a new target, overflicks on that guy, reflicks back onto him. Now he does land in the middle of their stomach. That is something to keep in mind. When you're looking for aimbots, typically speaking, what you're looking for is stuff that is consistently inhuman, right? Because to do something inhuman isn't necessarily impossible, but to do it consistently is. So if you were looking at this guy, flicking directly to the middle of the target like this is peculiar. It's a level of accuracy that is not consistently humanly possible, at least in 99.99999% of people, and even then, there is always going to be a degree of human error. So, analyzing this, flicking directly to the middle of the body is some kind of evidence to show that maybe there is something going on with some cheating software, but it would have to be consistent for this clip to be weird, because showing it one time doesn't mean anything, because you might be able to do this one time, but doing it consistently would be weird. But he kills this guy, flicks the next guy, and again, didn't land in the same spot for any of those targets. He only landed in the middle of the target one time. So far, I'm feeling pretty good about this.
What the fuck? That was nuts!
Pretty normal so far. Now, this is the clip that everyone's talking about.
Wow, I flicked straight at that guy through the wall. Oops.
Right. I flicked straight at that guy through the wall. Oopsie. So, why did he flick to this guy through the wall? Why did he do that? So, right now, assess this guy's screen, right? Because I'm going to give you some knowledge about target switching here. He's shooting a target. He wants to target switch onto his next target. Where is his next target? There's no enemies on his screen. There's no one. So that would mean that there would be no logical reason to flick to anywhere that you can currently see, because there's not going to be an enemy there, because you can see there's no enemy there. Therefore, you're going to flick outside of your current field of view based on the sounds that you're hearing. So you're determining player position based on the sounds they're making, and you're determining player position based on the map you're playing and prior information that you might have gained. So he might have ran through this area and had heard people to his left just before this clip started, and that's why he has information on the guy on his left. But either way, you know for a fact you're not going to flick to anywhere on your current screen because there's no one there. Also keep in mind that the point is to his left. If you look at the minimap in the bottom left, you can see that the C point is to this guy's left. So, logically speaking, there are likely to be people on the point, so you're going to flick towards the point. So, he's going to kill this target, and he's going to randomly flick to his left somewhere based on audio, map knowledge, and prior information gained to him. So he flicks it, and as you can see, he lands right here, and then corrects up. Why does he do this? I have no idea, but that's what happens. And then when he actually comes around the corner, he's not aiming on the guy. Now, I will say, the only thing that makes me feel weird about this clip is the flick to the wall, which is fine, but the correct afterwards to the corner, I reckon what actually happened here is this was pure instinct. So he flicks here, he realizes he's on the wall, and he's going to flick to this corner up here to try and, so he's not shooting nothing or the wall, he's trying to shoot some kind of area or space where he might hit someone, and he's definitely not going to hit someone to the wall, so you'd correct up here. But mid-correction, they realize that's fucking pointless, no one can be there, so they stop shooting, and then come around the corner, and there happens to be someone there. That happens all the time with target switching, especially in Battlefield. I'm pretty sure this was 32v32, so there's 32 enemies on the map. He's flicking directly at the enemy point, or the objective, where there's likely to be enemies. I think, with all the evidence that we've seen so far, this isn't even the weirdest clip. The flicking to the dead center of that guy in the previous one was weirder than this, but it's Twitter. They're going to go, he flicked to the wall, there was a guy behind the wall, therefore they're cheating. Is it possible that this was cheats? Yes, I guess it was, but I don't think it is. This happens far too consistently for every target switcher on the planet, because you're obviously not going to flick to somewhere on your screen if there's no one on your screen, so you're going to do a big flick based on prior information. Like I said, it just so happens there was a guy behind the wall, and it happens sometimes, right? Everyone can agree, like, Symphony's not a cheater, although some people think he is. Symphony does this all the time because he just big flicks all the time, and eventually you're going to land on someone, which is what happens here with Riley.
Wow, I flicked straight at that guy through the wall. Oopsie.
Yeah, I think that's totally normal. I don't think anything there was weird. Apart from the flick to the wall and the little micro correct, that was strange, but not outside the norm of what people would be doing. Because if you are flicking to a wall, you're obviously not going to keep shooting the wall, you're going to correct. And mid-correction, because you have to keep in mind, basically 90% of what Riley's doing here is either completely autopilot instincts or very little forced action, right? You have to think, Riley's probably got hundreds of hours training target switching. You're going to be best when you just let your body do your thing. When you're naturally just doing what you were trained to do, you're gonna flow better. So this was probably just pure instinct for Riley to just flick. Oh, there's a wall there. Correct off the wall. Oh, well, that's fucking pointless. There's no one there. Let me go look for someone, and then they found someone that happened to be there. I think this is totally fine.
Targeting 240 FPS, good computer.
Right, very good tracking, but nothing that was inhuman about it at all. Now, you can see the tracking on the vertical tracking, especially because the car is moving vertically upwards, like diagonally, mostly horizontal movement, is that their aim is not perfectly centered on this guy the whole time. As they rise, Riley needs to correct upwards, and they correct slightly too much, and you'll see that their aim bounces up and down a little bit because they overcorrect upwards, so they pull down a bit, and then they overcorrect downwards, and then they fix it. That's very normal for this kind of tracking. This is very difficult, and it's very well trained, which is why it's so smooth. So again, nothing here is physically impossible. Nothing here is even consistently inhuman. This is very normal.
Good computer.
It's just good tracking. Nothing there was weird. Again, he's off his target initially when he's shooting, and then he's obviously correcting back onto him. He's flicking, and he actually misses this guy initially. He overflicks, corrects back onto him. Again, right, now what you're seeing here is Riley, most of the time, is missing. But Riley is very fast, so he can get away with missing. That's right, most target switchers miss most of the time. Especially when they're flicking to targets that aren't on their screen. Because there's just only so much you can do. You know what I mean? So, the level of missing that Riley is doing should be enough evidence alone that Riley isn't cheating. Nothing here is crazy. A lot of missing, but that's normal for a target switcher. You're flicking so fast. There's going to be human error. Shit happens, you know. But there, again, like, nothing crazy happened, right? They weren't flicking to the same part of their body. They weren't consistently hitting shots that seemed weird. They weren't doing consistent big flicks that were always landing on people. There are human error being displayed here. A machine like an aimbot is supposed to, like, iron out those human errors. So if he's got an aimbot that doesn't iron out human error, then it's not doing its purpose, which would make it a really terrible aimbot. But a really terrible aimbot is very easy to see because it's coded poorly, and this one is very difficult to see if it does exist. So it's kind of contradictory. Again, there's absolutely nothing crazy here. This is just normal target switching, in my opinion. I went back too far. That's fine. I think it's honestly just the big flicks. I think people are just upset that Riley is flicking. Again, Riley, even on the correction back onto this guy in the wall, misses. Now, there is a very real possibility that what Riley is doing, if they are cheating, would be a case where they're very capable of target switching. They are very good, and the FOV on their aimbot is very low, so that if Riley flicks within a very small degree of someone, it will correct for them to make them faster. But that's the only thing that is a even minute possibility at this point. We've basically managed to work out that the only thing they might be doing is super low FOV aimbot. But right now, it doesn't look like that at all, because there's no weird, consistent, inhuman activity going on. His flick location isn't consistent enough for it to be weird. I guess there you could say it was. Was he right in the middle of that guy? Oh, I went. Did he land right in the middle? Not really. It's just... Yeah, okay. I don't know. What? Right. Is there anything to even analyze in this clip? He's shooting this guy. He gets off his target. He overflicks. Corrects back to the guy that he thought he killed first, and he didn't. Then kills that guy. I don't know. That seemed totally normal to me. Maybe I'm crazy. Right. Again, like, I don't know how anyone would come to the conclusion that this is cheating, right? Sees this target running out, starts shooting them, starts missing their shots because they start moving in a different direction and they didn't react fast enough, corrects back onto them, gets the kill, flicks to the guy farther away from his crosshair. But look, this is what happens when you're target switching. This is what goes to the mind of a target switcher. While he's shooting this guy, he isn't actively looking at him. Right? He's not looking at the guy he's shooting at. He's looking around him to gain more information about where he's going to flick to next. Because that's what you do as a target switcher. Which is why, when he kills this guy, he flicks to the guy farther away from his crosshair, to the right, because he has more information about that guy. He's known about that guy's existence for longer because he saw him coming up the stairs first. If this was an aimbot and he presses aim key, he would flick to the guy closer to him and his crosshair. Now, obviously, people have this misconception about aimbot, that it flicks to the target closest to you. It doesn't do that. You can have an aimbot that does that. I don't know why you would want one that does that. But generally speaking, how it works is you will have a certain FOV around your crosshair. When you press your aim key, it will flick to the person that's closest to your crosshair within whatever FOV that you've set. So if he were to be hitting an aim key here, he'd be flicking to the guy on the left, not the guy on the right. But he flicks to the guy on the right because Riley is actually a target switcher and they've gained more information about the guy on the right and their instincts have taken over. Because of the fact that they saw that guy on the left while they were killing that guy on the right, they now know that this guy's in the doorway. So Riley just flicks back to the doorway, the guy is there. Right, you see the double aim they do? This is a big thing for target switching, right? You have the initial big flick. Watch, when they flick to the left, big flick. Then you have correction shots, right? One of them was flicking to where they want to be looking at. The next flick is onto their target. That's double aiming. That's a big thing in target switching because there is obviously going to be a level of human error where you're not able to absolutely, with 100% accuracy, flick 90 degrees onto someone all the time. So you have to do this double aiming thing. But very normal. Very, very indicative of high-level target switching. Not indicative of cheating. I don't know. Nothing about this screams anything to me. Shooting this guy on the floor, missing shots. It is what it is. Corrects when he sees this guy peeking him, flicks to him, and kills him. Not some insane level of human feat. That's just very normal target switching. Again, look at where his crosshair is landing when he's shooting at people. Right, he's off this guy's body now. He flicks to this guy, he overflicked on him, corrects back onto him. I don't know. That seemed normal to me. Right, again, right, and here's more of it, right? Remember what I said earlier, right? Sees this guy, gets information about this guy on the right because he sees bullet tracers and he hears them. Kills this guy and does a fucking information swing. So he swings, thinking where the guy might be based on the information he has, and goes, "Oh shit, I'm not on him." Corrects and shoots him. Super normal, super normal. Again, right, look at what Riley does here. People might say this is aimbot. This is obviously not aimbot. Riley is going to kill this person, and because there's no one on their screen, Riley is going to flick to information, right? They're flicking to gain information. They're going to turn to a portion of the map where they know people are going to be, which is why Riley flicks and gets on this doorway, because they think people are going to be coming to this doorway. But there's no one on that doorway, but they do gain information on where two enemies are. And then they get a correction, and they kill this guy. Very standard target switching.
Oh my god, I'm crying. What the fuck? You don't do the dishes, you don't have anything.
Right, again. Oh, I've went back too far. Right, now, again, look at the information that Riley's going to get here in this next clip, okay?
What the fuck?
Right, check out the info. Riley jumps over this fence and knows the location of two enemies, right? Remember where these guys are, because that's what Riley's doing. So they're going to shoot at this guy. Then they're going to correct back onto where that guy was. That guy's not there anymore. He's moved, so Riley's off. Riley will correct onto this guy, and Riley will kill him. That is very standard target switching. That is just how it works. Again, Riley is making a lot of mistakes in the tracking. Don't take this as me criticizing Riley or saying Riley's shit. Riley's obviously very, very good, but it's important to analyze what's actually going on and to say why they're human, right? Riley sees this person, they flick onto them, and then they just plant their crosshair. I don't know why they do that. Maybe they're not very good at flicking and then instantly tracking a target. I'm not entirely sure. That could just be a lack of practice. I don't know why they do that. But then they start tracking them, and they're missing a lot of shots. It happens sometimes. And then they correct onto the second guy.
So you had
I don't know. Pretty standard to me.
1,000 viewers and you're calling me famous.
Right, another thing. You'll see what Riley does.
Famous.
Right, so look. Riley is shooting at this person. Tries to correct onto this guy. But this guy's behind the wall. Right, so they're pre-firing it while they come around the corner because they don't want to stop shooting. And then they gain information because they see this guy over here. And this guy, Riley can shoot, but Riley can't shoot this guy yet because this guy's behind the wall. So Riley flicks to the other guy, walks to the left to close the angle on this guy so this guy can't shoot them. And then when this person's done, Riley's likely going to flick back to this guy through the wall and try to kill him. Riley goes for a different target because they gain information. I would have went for the guy back on the left.
No way.
But then Riley comes around the corner and kills this guy anyway. I don't know. This is normal. This is just what you do when you're target switching. This is just information gathering and information understanding. Right, let's actually go back and watch. Let's analyze this flick. So, how long does it take him to react to this guy? Okay, that guy was on his screen for fucking ages. Right, you can see the guy already right there. So Riley flicks. Riley is off by quite a lot. That's quite a big underflick. Now, obviously, he's flicking to something that's like 5 pixels wide, so that's pretty normal. Then Riley corrects and starts shooting the guy, and Riley kills them. Okay, there's nothing to analyze there. Again, let's just look at the humanness of this quickly. What would a machine do here? Riley is shooting this guy in the body. Look at where his crosshair is. Is Riley's crosshair glued to the same position on this guy's body the whole time he's shooting him? No, the crosshair's moving around. So that's not indicative of an aimbot. An aimbot will typically lock onto a specific part of their body and stay glued to it the whole time. I'm sure there are likely to be aimbots out there that are coded to not do that and have some kind of humanizer setting that makes them appear differently. But for what I'm looking for, that looked totally normal to me. None of that looked strange. That looked entirely like mouse movement. Then this second guy, we're going to see what happens. Riley flicks to where they are, not expecting the movement because the person's not moving. So they're going, flicking to that guy. So obviously that is an aimbot, but remember, Riley is flicking to this guy at the same speed he flicks to everyone else at. So if he's flicking with an aimbot, he'd have to flick with the same speed with his normal flicks as he would with the aimbot, right? Yeah, it would be suspicious if Riley's flicking speed or flicking accuracy was bad, and then in some cases was very good when flicking to target. But Riley is very fast, very precise, and their stopping power is very good even when they flick off of their target. So that would mean that no matter what Riley is flicking to, they are maintaining the same level of skill regardless of if it's on a player or on a wall or on an animate object or whatever it may be, which is more consistent with human than it is machine, because a machine cannot distinct itself between flicking to a wall and flicking to a person. It just knows to flick to the person. So how is it that Riley's able to maintain the same level of accuracy and speed while flicking onto things that are not people as they do when they flick onto people? That's indicative of human skill, not an aimbot. But anyway, Riley overcorrects back left and just flicks and kills these people. Right, very normal. Nothing was even remotely strange about that clip. This is the same thing. What you'll see here in this last clip especially is so what Riley's doing. So Riley kills this person in the bottom floor and flicks this guy on the top floor. Now, what would an aimbot do? It would snap to this guy and they would laser beam them. Riley likely isn't entirely used to the recoil of this gun, so their gun obviously starts going up because of the recoil, and Riley needs to correct downwards, which is why you see that teeny tiny little micro flick downwards. Right, you see that teeny tiny little micro flick? Because Riley realizes they're off target because of recoil. Watch it again. Teeny tiny, there you go. Right, because Riley understands that they're off. This is totally normal. I didn't see anything that was indicative of cheating at all. Literally not even one single thing in this. Apart from this clip here, where they say, oops, I flicked that guy through the wall, but I already explained why they'd be flicking to this guy through the wall and why they'd be micro-correcting. I don't think that's enough evidence to even consider that this person may be cheating. But the comments seem to disagree. Now, this is obviously a big one. Wow, flick straight to the guy through the wall. Oopsie. It's obviously cheating. Why would people cheat in a beta? Most obvious aimbot. I accidentally flicked to this guy, especially this one. Locked onto a guy behind a wall here. Of course. Yeah, okay. Cheat. Yeah, this guy said aim trainer. Guy flicked 180 degrees. He killed a guy far away. He wasn't even shy yet. This is an aim trainer of skills. Yes, it is. I can do this. And listen, here's the thing. I haven't aim trained in about 2 years. I've had a pretty bad wrist injury for a long time, and it prevents me from training. Obviously, I'm pretty shit now, but the fact of the matter is, I can still, to some degree, perform to not the same level as Riley. I will admit, Riley is a lot better than me right now, but I am able to perform at least to some level of Riley, and I haven't trained in 2 years. If I'd been training these 2 years, I'm sure maybe Riley would still be better than me. I'm not entirely sure. I like to think that I was pretty good, so obviously I'm going to have the confidence to say, or the confidence, or whatever you might call it, to say that, you know, I like to big up myself. I think I'd be, you know, as good as Riley, or better than Riley, or whatever. But there's no way to know for sure. Riley is very good. But yeah, this is just aim training skill. This is obviously aimbotted. No, it isn't. Yeah, I see what people hate you. All they deserve you for every stereotype of a brain dead American. I guess this guy's replying to Tectone, calling Tectone dumb or whatever. There's a lot of shit about Tectone and this other person, internet drama, that I don't care about. I just care about the cheating accusation. People can say whatever they want about whoever they want. It's a bit fucked up, but that's Twitter, I guess. Then they obviously have this one. Can't tell if people defending this due to rage being or genuinely mentally handicapped. Okay. This person is really cringe. However, I don't think they're cheating. It's open beta. Highlighted cheats were made this quick. There are actually cheats in Battlefield 6. I've seen clips of people cheating in Battlefield 6 with like the little ESP lines and whatever the fuck they're called, like the skeleton boxes of people. You definitely can cheat in Battlefield. This is normal aim at the highest level of Kovacs. Yes, that's true. I wouldn't even say the highest levels. A lot of this, there were a lot of mistakes. Don't take that as me criticizing Riley or saying Riley's bad or anything. It's very human, right? But you know what I'm saying. And you see him like this in the highest ranks of all games. Yeah, this is pretty normal. This is a good take. I don't know. Maybe this person is cringe. I'm unaware of who Riley is. But we'll see the these are cheats out already. That's true. Okay, they're calling him naive. This guy obviously doesn't know anything about anything. That's fine. Do some research. I mean, they are clearly cheating. Anyone with eyes, any semblance of IQ can tell that. Really. And here's the clips of... This is the clip I saw of the guy cheating. Obvious cheater. Right, anyway, people are just saying this guy's cheating. I don't believe they are cheating. But anyway, thank you for watching. I love you all. Have a good day. Tell your family members you appreciate them. Okay, goodbye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.